right, guys. Looks like we are live. I'm just going to double check. All right, there we go. What's happening, guys? I've logged on a little bit early. The layout for Facebook Lives has changed, so just trying to see about the questions. That's how we do it now. Okay. Give me a moment, guys, while I work out how this all works. Oh, where's my screen gone? Can you guys just let me know you can see and hear me? As usual, Facebook Live has changed, so I'm just trying to work out how to use this now. There we go. All right, but I can't see, where do the questions come up? Our comments are just there. Sorry guys, bear with me. Nope, that's not it. Okay. All right, so I don't know where the questions actually show up now on these Facebook Lives. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Can you guys just let me know? Oh, there's a comment there. How do I see that comment? Okay, all good. Excellent. All right, thank you. There we go. Perfect. All right. So just wait a couple of minutes, guys. I am rather early. I just had a strategy call booked in about an hour, so I thought I'd get this done early. So guys, just again, you guys can hear me. Obviously, that's all good. Just let me know. There's no real schedule for today, guys. It's just really a hello, especially to all the new people that are in ACH coming up in March. And if you've got any questions, I've got a couple that people posted and sent me in Messenger, which I'll answer as well. But there's no real schedule for today. So if you don't get to see this, it really doesn't matter. Isn't that always the way? Facebook Live changes the layout as soon as I want to use it. Hopefully this is working now. All right, so Sam says all good. Okay. All right, just wait for any more people that are showing up. Just give me a hello, guys, once you're here. Again, there's no schedule for today. I can see myself now. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thank you, Nerys. Thank you. If you've got any questions, guys, post them below. I'll start answering just the ones that I have. I only have about 3 or 4. I'll answer these as we go through. It's good to see everybody again. I think it's the first time I've actually done like a live in about 6 months. It's crazy. All right, let me just go to the group. If you got any questions, just type it in the comments, guys. Hope everyone's doing awesome. Hope everyone's excited about March. What do we got? It's the 10th today, so 16 days. Hi, Liliana. Awesome. Hi, Scott. Hi, all. Okay, where's my post? Where is my post? Where is my post? Okay, all right, got the questions. Awesome. Yes, if you've got any questions, guys, just leave them below. But look, let's get into it. That way I'm not keeping you guys. So firstly, just want to welcome everybody that's going to be joining us in March for the ACH. If it's your first time doing one of these trainings, you're going to have a blast. If you're unaware what we do on the day of the training, I'll actually do it the night before because it's going to start at 7 a.m. my time. It's all Adelaide time. Thank you, Darren. I'll answer that. I'll have my VA post like a countdown. So we'll do like a 24-hour countdown, 15-hour countdown, so on and so forth. That way everybody can sort out the time zones. I know the time zones and converting time is a fucking pain in the ass, but I'll give you guys heaps of notice, as I always do. That way you won't miss out. So usually what happens about half an hour before the event begins, please address processing. Yes, Claudia, I'll answer that as well. Great question. And again, all of these questions will be answered through the ACH training as well, but we'll talk about them now. So usually what happens on the day, which will be Saturday morning for me on the 26th, is all Adelaide time. At about 6:30 a.m., I will post the link for the call. It'll be a Zoom link, and you'll click on that, and I usually give everyone about 15 to 20 minutes to join, and it's very simple. We do that on day 2 as well, okay? So again, if you're joining us first time in March, I look forward to meeting you for the first time. We're going to have a blast, all recorded. You'll get access to all the recordings. Very, very simple training. So let's get to these questions. Claudia, please address processing. So processing occurs once you've had the quote-unquote breakthrough, when your clients had some sort of change, which is an unconscious thing, but it's also a lot of conscious stuff as well. It takes time for the conscious and unconscious sort of reintegrate. where what happened during the session and the breakthrough they've had starts to make sense to them. So that's usually how you'll find like clients after a long, especially in ACH. I don't see a lot in other types of therapy because it just doesn't do the same thing, reading scripts and all that. But you'll find that sometimes your client will have like an instant breakthrough where they say, oh my God, Claudia, I just figured out what my problem is. And I also know the solution. This is fantastic, which means there's really no processing. But what tends to happen is a couple of hours, if like an hour or two, or maybe even a day, like 24 hours after the session, your client will spend a lot of time sort of internal. I call it like almost like they're a zombie. They can't quite think straight. Everything seems to have slowed down as far as time. All these weird phenomena things start to happen until it clicks. And that's usually when I would get a phone call from clients, or back then it was more email, and say, I wasn't sure if anything works, Scott, but this morning I woke up and everything's changed. Like everything's got clarity. Everything makes sense. I know why I did this. I know how this is going to work. That's the processing time. So processing is extremely powerful. And for you as a therapist or a coach, you do not want to interrupt that processing. So in the ACH training, I'll show you how to tell your client about the processing time, because it's very important that we do tell them that it may take time. I'll also show you how to speed up that processing by keeping them consciously active doing something else. We usually say like, go to the movies or go read a book, just go do something. We're basically saying, hey, don't think about the session too much. You don't have to, because they can dilute the session, or they can screw it up. Or we tell them to go to sleep. It's called sleep processing. But again, more of that will be covered in ACH. But does that make sense for now, Claudia? It's an extremely important part, and I know no other trainers talk about it, but it's so underused, and it's something Erickson was a fan of. He was a big fan of. So you could essentially say that what ACH is doing is setting a client up to allow the conscious and unconscious to split, almost like as a metaphor, and then come back together and reintegrate with itself. That's what ACH doing. It's putting those two parts of the mind, if there is two parts, those two parts of the mind, to detach from each other, to do the work they're supposed to do, then come back together. So ACH is allowing that to happen. Okay, does that make sense, Claudia? So Sam says they feel scattered. Yeah, that's a very Aussie way to say it. Scattered. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. That's why people would leave Erickson. Excuse my language, guys, but who cares? They would leave Erickson's office and so fucking confused about what he did and how it all worked. But that's the processing. Now, the worst thing that can happen is a therapist or a coach gives their client too much to do. Like, once you go home, go and do this, and go write this vision board, and go write your goals, and go listen to this audio straight away, then go to... You do not want to have your client doing too much. You just want to allow that processing to happen, okay? And again, in ACH, I'll show you how or what to say to your clients to allow that processing to begin, but also to tell them that it's going to take some time. I think I went around in a circle there, Claudia. Let me know if that makes sense. Darren, what should we do to prepare for March class? Absolutely nothing, okay? Well, actually, I'll take that back. Please just go watch the ACH trainings, the past ones. You don't have to sit there and study them, but just get a feel for how the 2 days is going to go. How, we start from, day one all the way through to day two. Just watch those. I recommend going to training number 2 first, because training number 1, we didn't highlight the person having the therapy, so it's a little bit harder to see, or highlight on Zoom anyway, a little bit harder to see the unconscious moments, but we fixed all the tech up on class number 2. Just go watch those, get a feel for it. One thing you will not have to prepare, which I'm sure you guys are really happy about, no scripts. We're not going to read from a workbook. I'm not one of those trainers that sits there on a chair and just reads from a workbook or a textbook. I don't see how that's a therapy training. Nothing like that. Hi, Kat. You're not late at all. I was actually early, so you're actually on time. And you see we're just going to go through the whole ACH process in 2 days. Now, 2 days doesn't sound like a long time, but trust me, we can get a lot done in 2 days. Okay, we don't need 7 days, 14 days, 21 days to get this stuff, because the process itself is extremely simple. And we're going to spend the entire 2 days doing demonstrations, not reading from a freaking textbook or anything like that. Claudia, yes. So Darren did answer your question, so just go watch those trainings. You don't have to prepare for anything else. It's a very casual training. So hi, Ellen, and you should be all good to go. Okay. If you don't get time to watch the trainings, doesn't matter. We're going to start from scratch. If it's your first type of conversation hypnosis training, I guarantee it's not going to be the same thing here, because I'm not going to be teaching language patterns and all that sort of stuff, because again, that's irrelevant. That's not the ACH we're teaching. It's better to just come in from with an open mind. So Claudia, yes, thank you. Would you then tell them about the process and unconscious emotion? Yeah, absolutely. So Claudia, we'll hold off on that for the ACH training. We will cover that we'll definitely cover it by day 2, if not on day 1. But I want to give you, and this is the only time I really use this, I'll give you almost like a script, not formally, but I'll just say, hey, at the end of the session, tell your client this. So we will cover that. We'll spend a lot of time on those processes, and also the process instruction, the processing after the sessions. I'll show you exactly what to tell your clients so it makes sense to them as well. Does that make sense? You're happy with that, Claudia? If we just hold off on what you'd say to them directly until the ACH training, let me know. If you've got any more questions, guys, post them. I'm going to read out Paul Williams's questions as well. He's got 4 of them. Okay. All right, so he's actually got some good questions, really good questions. All right, so Paul asked, number 1, when you talk about untying a knot, how is a knot untied? Is it just by bringing the attention to it and having the client keep their attention on it? Absolutely, yes. So the way I like to think about it, if you go watch the webinar at the very start of the ACH training, it's called the ACH strategy webinar. I talk about knots. So the way I view it, okay, this is just the way that I see it. They're all just metaphors anyway. Let's say you've got the problem that's like this circle, and inside is the problem. And we know that the unconscious creates a pretty thick wall around that problem. It's very hard to destroy that problem. Around the outside, it's covered by what I call them knots. It's like a thick layer of skin that forms this thing around the problem, so it's sort of impenetrable. And what happens is this thing is tied up in knots. So knots is like a mixture of conscious and unconscious emotion, conscious and unconscious sort of different realities. We talk a lot about opposing realities in the ACH training, like someone says, I want to be fat, and I want to be skinny, or I want to be up and I want to be down, that type of different reality. And this problem is ensconced around with these knots around it. So by bringing a client's unconscious plus a lot of conscious attention to the knot itself and separating that knot, it's almost destroying it just by pure attention, that's how we can start to penetrate that problem. And again, it's hard to explain it. It's better when we show you a demo so I can point out, hey, that's where the knot is. That's what it is. That's how we destroy it. But the way you've questioned it there, Paul, is absolutely right. Everybody forgets, and I think it's more the traditional training, everyone thinks that when it comes to solving a problem, I have to have a technique. It has to be a regression. It has to be a script. It's got to be a visualization. It's got to be them hugging their inner child, whatever it is. If we take away all of those techniques, what are we left with? Attention. We're putting attention on it. So I'm rather lazy in the fact that why would I want to add more things to it if I know it's the attention that destroys the problem and those knots? It's not the technique. There's attention in every technique. So it doesn't matter what the technique's called or the visualization, And when we get into that whole technique thing, now I'm telling a client, hey, here's your problem. You're going to put attention on it. But the way I want you to destroy the problem is by using this visualization. Well, now that's me telling a client what to do. That's not a good thing, because how the hell would I know how a client's going to destroy their problem? How do I know if they're going to be better off with a visualization or a regression or a integration, whatever you want to call it? That's not my job, but every therapist thinks it is. That's why when you see the ACH training, there's no techniques, there's not a lot of storytelling, there's no visualization. The only time those things come up, guys, is if a client presents it to us and we utilize those things, which I'm going to show you how to do in the 2 days. So this is what I mean about being really, really lazy. But when it comes down to it, the principle, not the technique, the principle for destroying knots, penetrating that problem and destroying whatever that problem is in the context of that problem is just attention. If you look at hypnosis, what is it? It's just attention, nothing else. Okay? So Paul, that's exactly what attention does. Is this making sense so far, guys? Number 2 says, what is the difference between an unconscious moment and when a client presents 2 parallel realities, e.g., the client thinks they are lazy and yet it's clear they are super busy all the time? Is pointing out a parallel reality enough for it to collapse? Absolutely. That's exactly, again, it's just the attention on it. A lot of people think that hypnosis is just pure unconscious stuff. I'd beg to differ. There's a lot of consciousness that goes on with unconscious change as well. And having conscious attention on a real unconscious problem is extremely powerful, because a client has to understand, almost to an extent outside of the processing, will really click for them later, but they can sort of get a real good insight into the problem by using some sort of consciousness. That's why I'm never a fan of when people say, you've got to use hypnosis to get rid of the conscious mind. No, you don't. Why wouldn't you just use both? You'll notice with the ACH training, I'm not interested in teaching you guys how to be better hypnotists or put people deeper, because that's irrelevant. That's focusing on the hypnosis. We're going to focus on the therapy, guys. And you'll notice that we do things quite backwards. I like to do the therapy first and untie all the knots. So then when I have to, or if I have to do the hypnosis part, there's no resistance, because the client's just out of it. They've had their breakthrough already. The hypnosis becomes the icing on the cake. But everybody does it the other way around and wonders why when they put a client into hypnosis, there's so much resistance to change. I like to do it backwards. And again, it's an old Ericksonian thing. Okay? So I couldn't care less about the hypnosis. I care about the therapy. Okay, is that making sense, guys? Hopefully it is, Kat, as well. Paul, good question so far. So hopefully that's answering. You're on the ball here with your questions anyway. 3, when we use an unconscious moment, what do we do? Do we ask questions about whatever led to that unconscious moment? Is the idea that our line of questioning should be about or around whatever led to the unconscious moment? Further knots are being revealed. Yes, absolutely. So it's a yes for all your questions. Whatever question you asked that led to an unconscious moment, keep going down that path. Keep asking questions around that, because what are we doing? Attention. With each question, we're putting more attention on it. Another question, more attention. Another question, more attention. Attention, 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 attention. It's like we're putting attention on the unconscious problem and say, hey, unconscious mind, fix this. And by doing this, by untying the knots, that's when the emotions come out. And it's those pent-up emotions or feelings or whatever you want to call them that get stored and locked off unconsciously that have to go somewhere. It's like dirty water in a glass. You want to pour the water out first and then clean the glass. Okay, that's sort of what we're doing here. So yeah, whatever question, whatever thing you did that led you to get an unconscious moment, keep going down that road. Whether it's another question, it's using a process instruction, like saying to a client, okay, there you go, feeling better now, whatever it is, and we'll go through all those process instructions on ACH training as well. Keep doing that. The opposite is also true. If a question you ask revealed no unconscious moment, ask another question that's totally different. And eventually, no matter what road you go to, they'll all lead to the same place. And sometimes it might take longer, sometimes it'll be quicker. But yeah, anytime you're on unconscious moment hunting, okay, keep going down that road. And Paul's 4th question, if a client gets emotional, an unconscious moment, how do we know whether or not to continue our line of questioning or use a process instruction? Same thing, either or. You'll get an instinct for this stuff, like I've got to ask another question, which will push them deeper because it's attention, or you can use a process instruction, which pushes them deeper again. I like to use a mixture of both. Okay, so it really doesn't matter, Paul, in that case. So hopefully that answers your questions, Paul. Just let me know in the group later on when you listen to this. Okay, Melanie, I came in late. I actually came in early, Melanie, so you probably came in on time. Prior to the ACH training, should we watch the 6th stage? No. Don't watch that. That's real basic stuff that has nothing to do with the ACH course. ACH it's the advanced version of the 6th stage, but it's also not advanced. We're just going to shortcut all that stuff. That 6th stage was what I used to teach in live trainings for absolute beginners, because I thought that's the way it should be. Then I realized that instead of taking and it used to take me 6 or 7 days to teach that stuff, it was long. But then I realized, hey, I'm covering the same principles anyway in the ACH training. It wasn't called ACH at the time. I'm just going to teach that. So I've actually taught ACH, what you guys are going to learn, to absolute beginners. And some of them, actually a lot of them, are in the 100K coaching program, and they've got 6-figure businesses. And all they've done is my ACH training. They've been certified in that. That's all they've done, and they're crushing it, and they were absolute beginners. So Melanie, just go watch the actual ACH trainings. You can use the 6-stage stuff for a bit of fun later, but it'll be irrelevant. We're going to shortcut all of that stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, Kat. So isn't it that we live in conscious and unconscious state, so therefore working conscious as well makes sense? Yeah. Everybody forgets about it. Like, it's quite funny, like the old traditional ways of teaching it, like therapists will leave their clients and they don't want to give them any conscious instructions. It's sort of like they have their client leave their office and they don't want to touch them or don't want to say anything in case they break the session. No. You want to give your client some conscious instructions. You want to give them something to do consciously. You can call it tasking, you can call it coaching, whatever it is. But during the session, we use a lot of logic. Hypnosis has gone so left field where it's all this, and I don't know a better word for it, like this woo-woo stuff where it's sort of like, there's a new therapy out now. I haven't seen the results of it. Obviously, people talk it up. Where you sit there, you go into trance. It's sort of like, I can't remember the name. This is an old school way of doing it. But like you go into trance, they go into trance, and you talk to them through your mind. Okay? Like, what can be done at that point? Okay? It's gone so far down that road where it's become so mystical and there's no real logic in it anymore. I like to pull it back and use a lot of logic in this because you as the therapist should be able to ask the questions that require your client to think properly, okay? And that's going to require some logic from you as well. And that's how you get really creative. And I'll show you how to do this. You get really creative with the ACH question. I use a lot of logic in the therapy. I can see things my client can't see. Like, if you really watch closely in the ACH trainings, you'll see some of the students will say something like, and Paul actually used this before, one of the students says, I feel so lazy, but I'm running like 3 businesses at the same time. And he couldn't see that, but that's the loop he was running in. He was calling himself lazy, but he wasn't seeing what he was doing. So I was literally just reversing that and proving to him, hey, you're actually doing a lot, and it broke. Like real simple logic, but it's enough to have a pure unconscious breakthrough. So you may as well use both minds. Okay, so when people say, you fully get rid of the conscious mind, you do to an extent, but you can still use a lot of consciousness just in the way you approach therapy as well. Does that sort of make sense, Kat? And again, makes more sense when we do the ACH training. Ellen, yeah, like the conscious and unconscious sort of meet at a level where the conscious is not ruling. Yeah. And again, just easy to show you the demos with this, guys. You'll see it in action. And when you see it in action, it'll be like a punch in the face, for lack of better words, because it becomes so obvious. Okay, and obviously the stuff that we're doing, you're not going to be able to script. I don't even want you guys taking notes. Just watch how it unfolds. And it gets really, really simple doing it this way, where you can really become lazy as a therapist. Say less, do less, but results will speed up. It's quite weird that the more you do, the more you say, the more you tell clients to go here, go deeper, follow this visualization, go do this, go to this, and 3 hours later, all you've done is just told them to do stuff. No wonder your sessions take so long. With ACH, when you get good at it, you can literally do fuck all and have the quickest breakthroughs. Because once you set the parameters for the unconscious mind to change, you don't want to disturb it. You just let it do its thing. And, an unconscious mind can change very, very quickly. The processing comes later, obviously, so it makes a conscious connection. But the unconscious change can happen very, very quickly. The more you talk and the more you do, the bigger chance you have of disturbing that and slowing things down. So if you wonder why your sessions are so long, it's probably because you're talking too much. You're trying to do too much, and it has the opposite effect. But everyone thinks, I need more tools, more techniques, more, because that'll speed up the sessions. It'll make them longer. I've lived my entire therapy career following like 6 to 8 principles. That's all I've ever used. I'm not trained in NLP, any of that stuff, coaching, traditional therapy. I had to do a certification just so I had the piece of paper, but I use nothing of that stuff because I don't think it's necessary. And again, that's why we call this, speed training. Ellen, so how is the training structured? Some instructions and then practice. Is it practice breakout rooms? Yeah, so we don't do the breakout rooms thing. We tried to do that last time, but it was just too many people in the group, and the Zoom was taking so long to create the breakout room. So all I do is I'll literally say, okay, guys, first principle. So this is the structure. First principle we're going to look at is the hypnotic interview, which is finding the root cause of the problem. I want one therapist and one client. And I actually coach those two people through that. Once we've mastered that principle, I then say, okay, let's get another two people to do a demo. We're going to do the hypnotic interview again, but now we're going to introduce process instructions. So we just go principle by principle or principle. By the end of it, we cover like the 6 to 8 principles, and that's all you ever need for your career as a therapist. So that's how we do it. But again, go watch the ACH trainings. You'll be able to see that. Does that make sense, Ellen? And Melody, no problem. Hopefully that makes sense. Ivan, hey Scott, please address staying on unconscious moments and expanding them. I'm spotting them, but run out after about the third question on staying on them to expand them. Yeah, so once you find an unconscious moment, you stay on it by just keeping their attention on it. That's where process instructions come in. Or you can tell a story. Just want to keep them there. They try to escape and start thinking about other things, pull them back. Once I have one unconscious moment, I can just stay there and I keep using it. There you go. What's happening now? Give me an example. Tell me. I'm just keeping them there. And the more attention I put on them, that's how we expand them. So eventually you expand them so much where they can't even think clearly and they're just out of it. Whether they go into trance or not is irrelevant. That's how we expand them. So once I find one, I won't worry about going to the next one if I need to at all until the time calls for it. Does that make sense, Ivan? So it's, again, comes back to the principle of attention. Yep, no worries, Alan. If you've got any more questions, guys, let me know in the comments. But Paul, that was all your questions. You were spot on for all of them, so yes to all of them. Make sure there's no other questions. Okay. Any other questions, folks? So just to recap, you don't need to have done or watched anything before the ACH training. Wow, the lighting's really bad in here. Sorry, guys. I thought it was good. That curtain's in the wrong place. What was I saying? Yeah, you don't need to watch any ACH stuff, but I'd recommend just go watch the past ones just to get a feel for how the training goes. Awesome. Kat, what proportion of your trainees do you think work face-to-face versus online? I recommend everybody do, as part of the 100K, we talk about this, more the business stuff, but do it online, okay? COVID's pretty much put a stop to a lot of that. People don't want to travel, and thanks to good internet, just do it online. If I had the choice, I would have made, and I spent so many years dwelling on it, I would have made the choice to go online so much quicker than I did. It wasn't a bad thing when I eventually did it. It was good, but I should have done it years before that. Like, we had the opportunity now, we actually had enough people to do a live training here in Adelaide, and people said, I'll fly out of state to come to Adelaide, do the live training of ACH. Couldn't be bothered. I'll just do it online. It's just as good. And the cool thing about it, I'm teaching you guys online. So as a byproduct, you're going to learn how to function online as well. So it's actually teaching you how to use Zoom and stuff by training online. So I haven't felt confident online. Yeah, you will after the 2 days because you'll see how it all works. ACH is perfect for online because I don't have to touch a client, which I don't recommend anyway. If you do want to have some notes in front of you, you can sort of put them in front of the laptop so nobody can see them. It's cool. You can get away with a lot of stuff. And I always think of it like this, and this is what my clients told me as well, is they felt more comfortable because they're in a place that they know. They didn't have to travel, no parking, no fuel, especially fuel prices are going crazy. All of that stuff aside, it makes for a more comfortable breakthrough for your client. And especially when it comes to ACH, and I talk about giving your clients, it's called sleep tasking. They're home anyway, so they can literally have a nap or a quick sleep after their breakthrough, which will speed up the processing. Someone asked processing before, right at the start. That'll come on ACH, but that's a good way to do it. So I used to tell my clients, hey, go for a sleep. Like, if you got the rest of the day off, go have a nap. Message me in an hour when you wake up and let me know how you feel. Simple. Does that help for now, Kat? And Kat, it might be a good, when I ask for people to do demos, put your hand up. That'd be a cool demo to do. So keep that for the 2 days if you want, and we can go through it. Monique, when they keep when they keep trying to avoid the problem, how much do you keep drawing their attention to it without avoiding a negative response? Oh yeah, I go in for it. I don't let them. As soon as as soon as I know I'm on the right track, and they want to avoid it, not with me. You're not. You're staying here, and I'll take my time and I'll just hack away at it, piece by piece by piece by piece. Eventually, they'll let go. They have to, because that's where the thing is. So you've got to have some tough skin. That's why people used to call Erickson an asshole, but he was doing it for the right reasons. They loved him for it, but they called him an asshole because he was relentless. So if we define a negative relapse, a response, as like an ab reaction, we want to avoid those. But if it's just like I don't want to answer, I can see them tensing up and stuff, you better believe I'm going to keep them there. And Monique, there was a little bit of that with you when we did your demo. Maybe that's why you've asked the question. But you see, I just kept at it. We just kept picking away at it, and eventually it just breaks. And that's when your shaking came up. Does that make sense, Monique? It's cool that you've asked that, because that's what I saw in your session. Apologize for the bad lighting, guys. That's terrible. So is that face cat for shit? I don't want to do a demo, but it's up to you. I'm not going to force you. Any other questions, folks? Hopefully you guys can't see or can't hear, the noise in the background. All right, Ellen, let me check out this entire question. Okay, Scott, is it right to say you prime or prep your clients to say they'll have an important learning, insights, breakthrough or solution to their problem, so you don't exactly promise the result? I always feel need to promise to sort of open the belief up, or is it bullshit? No, you can. I talk about priming in the 6-stage hypnosis training, but I don't think it's important because you're doing a strategy call. Your strategy call is your entire priming thing. That's how I transitioned away from priming. I didn't take it out. I don't formally do it in the session. I do it on the strategy call. They know what's to come. In Masters of ACH, I talk about the strategy call taking care of like 60 to 70% of all the resistance and all the bullshit your client comes in with. That's why you got to get good at those. So the time a client comes in for therapy, they've already started to change. But that's another process, for another time. That's the Masters thing. But if go watch the ACH training, every client starts like this. What's the problem? As soon as the client's on Zoom, let's say Ellen, you're my client. So Mary says no noise in the background. Perfect. You're my client. As soon as we catch up on Zoom, I'm going to say, you're all ready, you're comfortable. Ellen says, yep. I go, great. Tell me, what's the problem? Okay, I used to prime a lot, but then I realized it was just taking up a lot of time, so I didn't do it. But if you feel comfortable doing it, and look, if your clients love it, prime the hell out of them. Because priming will actually start the therapy and the trance and stuff, but I don't make it a formal step. Okay? Like, people might say, well, Scott, what if my client comes in and they're shaking and they're scared and all that stuff? Should I prime them to make them feel better? Hell no. You jump on it. You use the ETM, the emotional trance method, which I'll teach you guys at the ACH training. And we use that because they're already going through something. Again, Monique had an incredible reaction to the therapy. Please go watch that. She did an amazing job. Okay? Does that make sense, Ellen? If it helps, it helps. If it doesn't, don't waste time. It's like people saying I've got to do a complete personal history of my client. Why? I don't need to know everything about them. I just need to know about their problem. So I dive straight into it. People say you've got to have rapport. Why? I do rapport on the strategy call. My content of my business should do all the rapport. People know I'm direct and straight and don't really care about any of the other stuff. That's how I am in person as well. So that should be enough rapport. Okay? So I'm not into the whole rapport thing. I'm not into relaxing my client. I'm not into definitely not into telling them what hypnosis is and isn't. I never saw the reason for that. That's just ludicrous. Why the hell would you care? Why would a client care? But anyway, a lot of time wasted. I'm straight in for the therapy. As soon as the therapy starts on the strategy call, but regardless, as soon as the client sits in front of me, I ask them what's the problem, we're in. I don't care whether you like me, love me, or hate me. We're in, because you're here for a reason. and I don't want to waste your time. I'm ready for you to have the context of a breakthrough, and I want you out of my office as quickly as possible so you can go enjoy your life. That's what I want. And I also want to get them to that place as quickly as possible so the processing can start. Okay? Kat, my fear is drying up. We're doing therapy already, Kat. I'll send you an invoice for this session. Good stuff. Noise and light are perfect, Scott. Thanks for the answers. Makes perfect sense now when I see a demo. Yeah. Go watch the demo breakthroughs. I think they're the best thing we've done. And I'll do those again, guys, for the new demos that we have. I'll break it down how it works. And you will, for anyone that's been to the ACH trainings before, you know we just cover the same thing over and over and over because it's the same principles. What's crazy is you'll see our industry is full of techniques like the latest therapy. All they've done is taken an old technique like a regression or a visualization or something like that, and they've added a new fancy name to it. And then all the delusional therapists and coaches that go do that training think it's something brand new. Regressions have been around for 50, 60 years. The visualization, that's all stuff that's been done for the very first therapists in the world. They've done that stuff before. But everyone gets lost in the names and the shiny thing like Masters of Masters, Masters, Coaching, Advanced Masters, or whatever other shit they have out there. What I prefer to do is just teach the principles, because it's the principles that guide those techniques to exist in the first place. Like, I'll give you a real example. Since I'm on my soapbox, I might as well stay here. So if you look at something like a regression, people saw Erickson do it and thought, there's a technique, but he wasn't using a regression. So what they did was they just grabbed all the words and, the visualization, the stuff that he had created in that session, which all came from the client anyway, and they've turned it into a rigid technique. But then when you go use that rigid technique on the next person, it doesn't work as well. Why? Because it's all context related of the client. So everyone looks at that thing now and say, well, Erickson was just using a regression. No, he wasn't. He was using principles that allowed the regression to show up in the client. He just utilized it. He didn't force his client through a regression. Does that make sense, guys? That's where ACH comes in. Bina, so hi Scott, when you used to do stop smoking session for lawyers, and I know you said you'd do this at their lunchtime, do you get quicker with the more you do it, or is it based on each client, as it takes me an hour for some and 2 hours for others? An hour for some and 2 hours for others is extremely fast, so well done. But yeah, absolutely. The better I got, this is why the 100K coaching program and ACH are so closely tied together. The better the niche, the better your content, the better the strategy call, the better your clients are going to be. Okay? The better the client is, the quicker the therapy. And if you add proper therapy, which I see ACH is, no scripts and techniques and all that stuff, how could it not be extremely quick? So getting lawyers that have been primed all the way through my content, my strategy call, the niche, they know my expertise, they know the price. By the time they get to the therapy, and again, it's what we talk about in Masters of ACH, they're 90% done. And if I just dive into what's the problem and I'm already locked in, I already know, I can almost sort of foresee what the root cause is going to be, and I attack that really, really quickly, 45 minutes is a long time to get things done properly. I spent a lot of time just testing. That's how I got quicker. But again, as you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, as a context, of course, you'll get faster at it. But it doesn't start by just the therapy. It's all the stuff you do beforehand. And I've been saying that since day one, but everyone sort of overlooks that. Everyone takes that as, I've got to go learn timeline. I've got to go learn regression. I've got to go learn storytelling. No, you don't. You just start to utilize the same principles in a more strategic way. Does that make sense, Bina? About an hour or two, that's incredibly quick. Think about what you used to do. Most people take an hour or two just to write their fucking script. Oh, God, talk about a waste of time. So Ivan, so in a demo I saw, makes sense, perfect. So in a demo I saw Erickson and catalepsy. Would we do that in a session, Scott? And would it be so the client realizes they have a hypnotic experience? If it comes up naturally, you didn't see Erickson do catalepsy. Catalepsy showed up and he utilized it and made you think that he created that. Does that make sense, Ivan? You got to watch Erickson very, very closely. He was the master of utilization. So clients would say something And you'll hear me say it. Like if you ever notice in the demos, a client will say, I'm just having this thought. And I say, I know. It's almost like I can mind read what the client was thinking. I don't know, but I'm utilizing it. I'm making it seem like I know what I'm doing. Does that sort of make sense? So it's playing on that mastery level. So it just so happens that I would never force a client into catalepsy. What's the fucking point? Because now I'm telling a client what to do. I don't want to do that. If it shows up, you better believe I'm going to utilize it and make them think that I created it. Does that make sense, Ivan? And again, to sort of platform off that as well, I don't care whether my client thinks they went into trance or not, or had hypnosis or a hypnotic experience. I'm not working with that type of client. My clients just want therapy. They have a breakthrough and their life changes, but they spend the rest of their life saying they never went into hypnosis. I couldn't care less. As long as they had a breakthrough, that's what they're paying for. Does that make sense, Ivan? I don't want to worry about all the flash and all that sort of stuff. Love that. Indeed, they are primed by the content too. Yeah. Yep. So awesome. Bina says, yes, thank you. Good questions. All right. Zena. So how do you navigate around differences in understanding clients' cultural metaphors? Yeah, great question. So the way that I used to do it was, and I screwed it up a few times, was I just became better at utilizing what they gave me. So I just start to listen to my clients more, which is a good thing to do anyway. It's a really good thing to do. And I just listen out for those cultural differences, and I utilize those in a way that was a little bit open-ended, that didn't steer what, where their culture is and what they believe in towards where I want them to go, but I can utilize those things. Okay. That was why, like, when I work with lawyers, I knew nothing about law, but I understood the lawyer personality. And I think I probably rubbed off on me a bit as well. Like, they're very, very direct, almost rude, but I started to enjoy that because there was no screwing around then. So I didn't learn about law, I just understood lawyers. The more I hung around them, the more I unconsciously understood how they thought, how they acted. They're emotionally cut off. I'm not saying they're all like that, but that's just the way they're presenting themselves. But you sort of see where I'm going. So when you start to hang around those people, you start to learn to understand them more. Does that sort of make sense, Zena? Hopefully that sort of answers that question. Ivan, yes, thank you. Trey, excellent. So how could I recognize which one client says comes from the conscious or unconscious mind? Great question. Hold off for the 2-day ACH because we're going to spend 2 days pretty much on that principle. That's the main governing principle, unconscious moments. How do I recognize what is conscious information, which I can delete, get rid of, compared to unconscious information, which is pure unconsciousness? I'll show you how to do that in the 2 days. We're going to spend a lot of time there. If there was one thing that you guys could take away from the ACH training is learning to recognize what is conscious and what is unconscious, your career will skyrocket as far as your expertise. That alone, which most people say they can do, but they can't, when you get really good at that, everything else is irrelevant. Okay? So that'll come in the 2 days. And that's called spotting unconscious moments. That's really the governing principle at the, like, if there was a hierarchy of principles, it's that. That's the one thing I'd want to learn. Any other questions, guys? These are great. I'm actually going to turn a lot of these questions into content. So thank you, guys. Thank you. That is 100% true. Awesome. Man, it got dark here all of a sudden. This light is horrible. Sorry, guys. Not working at all. Any other questions, folks? Keep them coming. I'm happy to stay on here for another half an hour if need be for my call. But again, there was no agenda. Sorry, Scott, can I ask, can scoliosis be helped with ACH? Yeah, I don't see why not. I would say it would just be sort of like a pain control type session. I haven't done it personally, but you don't want to fall into that trap like, what type of therapy is best for this? Because it's the governing principles. If the body can be healed by putting a client's attention on more unconscious things that are going on, like trapped emotions, something like that, ACH excels at that. So If another question came up like, how would I do it? I don't know until I'd actually sit down with a client, but I'd use exactly the same principles for scoliosis, stop smoking, anxiety, I hate my mother-in-law, whatever. I'm using the exact same things. I never used anything else, only because I didn't know anything else, but it was just irrelevant. It's just the principles create techniques. If you live through principles, you have unlimited techniques. Does that sort of make sense? Not sure if this is relevant to this live, but how can you get past ego to communicate that they need therapy? So how can you get past their ego or yours? If it's your ego, keep it. I've got a lot of ego. Keep it. It works. But if it's their ego, you just have to... Man, that light sucks. You just have to... you want your content to do that. Awesome, Bina. You want your content to do that, Monique. And it all just comes down to results. I don't think... I'm sure it's an ego thing, and I know with the athletes it definitely is. But it's always constantly showing them results. This is the result you can have, and eventually that breaks it down. Okay, that would be my best place. Does that make sense, Monique? So Zena, I think so. Oh God, this light sucks. Sorry, guys. Is that better? Yeah, that's better. So I think so. So dive deeper by asking them what the metaphor... Yes, absolutely. So if they come up with a metaphor, you could say something like, I wonder why that's come up. You've heard me say that a million times. And what I'm basically saying to them is explain to me that metaphor. And then they explain it and you could nod your head. And it makes them think, Zena understands what I'm talking about, even though you probably won't. And it gives you some indications of, okay, they've talked about this metaphor. I've got one that's similar. I can talk about one as well. Or you can just feed back their metaphor with process instructions. Does that make sense? And does that make sense, Monique? What happened to those questions? So Adrian, why can't I see that? Sorry guys, my camera's glitching out. Oh, there we go. So when a client has come to the conclusion that, Monique, yes, keep chipping, absolutely. When a client has come to the conclusion that something directly caused their issue, example, treated poorly as a child, so this is the way they are now, how do you get them out of that one-track thinking? Brilliant question. You get really good at ACH. And that's the knot. That's a knot. Someone says I'm going to be a smoker for the rest of my life because my dad was a smoker. It's the same problem you're presenting to me now, just different words. And ACH will alert them. That's why you hear a lot of clients, we hear this on the ACH training as well, but a lot of clients will say to me, you know what, Scott, I thought it was this, but holy shit, it's actually this. Like, oh my God, this is mind-blowing. That's them having a breakthrough. Because they've spent their entire life thinking it's one way. And you haven't told them it's another way. Unconsciously, they've had that aha moment. That's how you do it. And all you do is just pick apart. They say, well, I was treated poorly as a child. That's why I have anxiety, or that's why I'm poor, or something like that. That's the place you start. You start to question that reality, and eventually it breaks. Does that make sense? And again, that's what ACH does. That's the hypnotic interview. The only thing you've got to be aware of is that when someone presents this to you, man, this light sucks. When someone presents that reality to you, and you might also believe that reality is actually real in them because it's real in you, that's a harder thing to stop. You've got to stop that. You've got to stop it triggering your own stuff. So here's the thing that sort of qualifies all of that, guys. Hopefully you're enjoying this and making sense. Anything my client says to me is bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Not in a bad way, but it's their best guess. How could it not be? It's their best guess because their problem is unconscious. And they can't directly get at the unconscious until someone's there to intervene. Because if we could get to our own unconscious problem, there'd be no such thing as a therapist. You could just, as Kat says, what does this have to do with that? That's one great way to pick apart that problem. But because the problem's so unconscious, you just got to pick it apart. So whatever my client tells me, I switch off. I also do it in business as well. When people come on a strategy call and they say, oh, Scott, I can't do this because of that. That's not the real problem. And the more I dig around, I'll find out what the real thing is. So they have a little breakthrough on the strategy call, and then they join the program. So it becomes sort of, when you get good at it, it just becomes the way that you think. I do it with my parents as well, my sister. Sister says, I'm having a problem with my husband. That's not the real problem. And then I find out after a couple of questions that she's just been working her ass off for the last 3 days and she's really, really tired. But she says, oh, and this is not the case, but I'll just give you an example. My husband, his name's Leon, who's my brother-in-law, says, Leon doesn't love me anymore. That's not it. It's just because you're tired from work. But you've disregarded that, and now you've attached it to something else. So all problems are created. You just got to learn to think that way. And if you do enough ACH training, you will learn to think that way, and it's very hard to shut it off. Does that make sense, guys? Any others? It makes so much sense. Yeah, logic. It's like when you go into a session, this is one of the worst things you can do. You go into a session believing that all problems exist because of childhood trauma, or all problems, that's a key word, all problems exist because of anxiety. How do they figure that out? That's just a guess. Now you've got your trainer guessing and telling you to think like that. So as soon as you go into a session, you start to steer the therapy that way. And 99 times out of 100, you'll get it wrong because now you're guessing. Because your client is guessing as well. Therapist and client just guessing at each other and wondering why. Why the fuck isn't anything working? It's been like 6 sessions in a row. Nothing's working because you're too busy guessing with each other. Haley, good to see you. So how can it be used with children? Exactly the same way. I don't do it personally with children, but there are some students, Haley, in the group. Vanita, who's in the group, she did it with her children. There's a couple of other students as well I can't think of. Ask them. They'll probably tell you, use it the exact same way. You can just sort of have a bit more fun with it. But it can be done if that's the question you have. Yes, it can be done. How you do it, ask them. How I would do it would be, I just wouldn't be so harsh with it. I can get quite harsh with ACH because the harsher you get, it actually speeds things up. But you've got to have that type of personality. With children, I'd just back off, have some fun, put a big stupid smile on my face, maybe talk about some stories or visualization, sort of ease them into it. I just wouldn't be as harsh. Does that make sense? But with adults, I'm going to be harsh. Not harsh out of, how should I frame this better? Harsh because I want them to have a breakthrough quicker. That's the harshness I'm talking about. I'm not going to be an asshole. But a bit of harshness, a bit of pushing, a bit of prodding, a bit of getting at their problem really, really quickly is the quickest way for them to have a breakthrough. Oh, so Monique, yeah, of course. Yeah, younger kids especially are great to do it with. Yeah. Adrian, can you please give me an example of how to step into that analytical mind and out of the compassionate human mind? Yeah, it's to just reframe what you mean by compassionate human mind. It's better for me to be analytical because I can speed up the breakthrough. And isn't that me being more compassionate to my client who I want them to have a quicker breakthrough? That's the way I view it. That's the way I was taught to do it. So the quicker, the harsher, harsh is the wrong word. I just can't think of another one. Sort of see where I'm going, guys. The more direct I am is probably a better word. Again, Ericksonian, very direct. The quicker the breakthrough, which means that I can give them the gift of this brand new life quicker. I may have to piss them off a little bit, but they're going to have a breakthrough quicker. I think it's uncompassionate, if that's a real word, to take your time, session after session, charge them wrong, all that. I think that's not a compassionate therapist. So you want to care about your clients. This sort of opens up a can of worms. You want to care about your clients for the breakthrough, but you don't want to connect and care with the client. Because as soon as you do that, you become a very, very bad therapist. Because now you start caring about the person. That's why I say as well, don't work with friends and family because you care about that person. And you won't want to go to those dark places where you should go as a therapist. Does that make sense, Adrian? Let me know. Kat, so how do you charge for a result and then have the session until the result passed the test? How do you state that in the beginning? Kat, apologize if you are, but are you a part of the 100K? If you're not, that's all covered in a 100K program. The best way I can answer that now, questions are going fast very quickly. How do you charge for a result? It's going to take me a long time to explain it here. if you're not in the 100K coaching program, Kat, what I'll do is I do. I think I've got a couple of YouTube videos, Kat. I'll post in the ACH group, the one we're in now. I'll post and let the video explain that for you. I'll tag you in it. But if you're in the 100K program, it's covered in week 1. Okay, if you're not, I'll post those videos. I'll tag you in it. That'll explain that. Marie. No, I'm not. Okay, so Kat, I'll put those YouTube videos in there and that'll explain it. It takes me a long time to explain it on here. Man, this light sucks. Terrible. Okay. Marie, Scott, I was working with a client today with physical problems. She had been in bed for a number of days. Okay. It's connected to glandular fever, which she had in 2012. Wow, poor thing. I've had glandular fever as well. That's horrible. My question is how to help someone who's laying in bed during the session and clearly has an issue. Great question. The medical establishment doesn't have much to help, and how do you help them when they have a physical issue? No modern medicine helping them. Yeah, this is... If they're laying in bed, if they're responsive, you could have like an ACH chat with them. But if they're still out of it and a lot of pain, it's probably not the best thing for doing a session because there's some reason why that's there. But I guarantee it's some sort of unconscious problem. Guarantee that. And ACH will destroy that unconscious problem in a positive way. If they're not responsive, it's hard to do ACH. It's the only time I'd say it. You might have to go to more traditional stuff. But then that's sort of like, that's sort of hit and miss as well. Yeah, that's the only thing I could do. I'm just trying to think what else we could do. Yeah, because physical issues get healed with ACH. We even have the demos of it. That's fine. But is she responsive? Can she answer questions? Can you keep her attention long enough for the ACH to really get a hold of it? I'm not sure. So I'm not too sure on that one. Great question. I wish I had a better response. But contrast that if this person was in a better place where they could sit up and talk to me like a normal conversation, even if they're in a little bit of pain and they're still suffering from it, then I'd use ACH in the same way. What's the problem? Well, I've got this. When did it start? This. Give me an example. This. What happened there? Oh, I felt my body started to twitch a little bit. Okay. Go down that unconscious road. It'd still be the same process, just the context might be different. I have another Erickson question, Scott. Cool. Can you elaborate how when Erickson would speak to people day to day became a therapy session, please? Did he just go into questioning them, metaphors? Yeah, pretty much. I don't think he's doing anything particular. My mentor used to do this as well. There was just something about, and this is how I first met my mentor, it was just something about when I used to talk to him when I first met him, that the shit that I was going through, I used to be bullied in school and all that, and that's how this sort of all came sort of together, becoming a therapist. I won't get into that, regardless anyway. But just every time I talked to this guy who, was trained by Erickson, man, things just looked so much better. He just had there's anything I put it down, like a logical sense to life that made so much sense to me unconsciously. It made me forget about my problems. But because I think he was a therapist for like 40 years, like he'd been in the game for a long time, like very good at what he did. That's the sort of way he became. So that's the way Erickson was the same as well. Erickson sort of violated that rule as well. I posted that video on the group where he sort of saw one of his students smoking, and Erickson didn't like people smoking, so he forced him to quit through some therapy, even though the student didn't want to, that sort of thing. Erickson violated that, and I think good on him. I think that's an incredible thing to learn how to do, but you just sort of become that person. And again, it comes back to the MAC principles. Remember we talked about in Masters, we talked about stop being the therapist, be a human being. That's where that sort of comes into it. You can sort of integrate the therapist and the human being together. Where in ACH, I say, okay, switch off the human being for now, let's become the therapist to learn how to integrate that, then come to Masters and I'll show you how to do both at the same time. Does that sort of make sense, Ivan? That's how he did it. It was more of a principle rather than a technique. So, Kat, I think I answered that. So yeah, Kat, I'll put that in the session. Marie says, yes, she can answer questions. Thank you. The pain is there. It's mental and emotional. Yeah. Yeah, I've glandular fevers. Terrible. It's more, I can see where she is stuck and she can't. When it's physical, it's not easy to help them. Yeah. But here's the thing, if you have that breakthrough, that could be your new niche. And I was talking about this with actually Vanita and a couple of other people. That's what I mean about I went through that issue with my sciatica over Christmas time, and I was in mega amounts of pain. I would have paid someone $1 million to fix that. And I told people go for the niche, and there's a few students now who are crushing it in that niche, which is cool because it is an emotional thing. I was an emotional wreck because it was just so painful. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how, and they're the types of clients, Marie, that I get interested in working with, like the ones that are quite difficult, where there's really no instructions of how to deal with it, to go in there and just work it out as you go along. I find that stuff really, really interesting. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I gave up on therapy. After seeing so many smokers, I got to the end of it and thought, I can't learn anything more. I'm literally just doing the same thing, making great money. The people are really nice, but I'm so bored of doing the same thing. There's no more excitement in it anymore. That's why it stopped for me. So Ivan, thank you. No worries. Yeah, Erickson was able to use, well, I took the principles from Erickson and created ACH just for my own way of doing things. It's probably not even close to what he was doing. I think it's a good guesstimation anyway. But the way he ordered up those principles and the way he utilized those principles goes beyond what any other therapist will ever be able to do. It's always funny to see, I see this a lot now. You'll see therapists on their Facebook page like world's #1 therapist. And I always think, man, who's nominating these people? Where are these awards that I keep missing out on? Like people self-proclaimed experts. It wouldn't even, get close to what Erickson was doing. And no one will ever get close. Even Ericksonian students, I would say, really scratching the surface. What Erickson knew and what Erickson could do goes way beyond what anyone would be able to fathom. That's what made him just the best at what he did. How soon after practicing ACH would it be okay to start MAC? Pretty much straight away. Because ACH is the principles, and then when we get to MAC, I show you how to utilize those principles in a different way and direct them in new ways that ACH won't allow us to do. ACH sets the context and the parameters. MAC is sort of just going crazy with those principles. MAC's a whole different training altogether. So yeah, we got students right now who are they utilize the principles of ACH with a blend of MAC at the same time. And that's the whole purpose of it. So thanks, Scott, just looking to make it part of everyday life more so. Yeah, use the principles from MAC. Yep, just get really curious with people. Listen. Ask curious questions. And again, you sort of can't stop yourself doing this when, my mum says something to me, or my dad or my sister, whatever, and has a problem. I don't go straight into just listening. I don't go straight into trying to help it because they're asking for some advice or something. I go in to listen to it to untie the knot that's stopping them from figuring out the solution for themselves. That makes sense? That's what I like to do. So what's crazy is I'm very talkative when it comes to Mac and business and stuff like that. But if you guys will see me out in person, I'm quite a quiet person because I'm always listening. And when I have something to say, it'll be really, really important. But on here, I talk people's ears off because I enjoy this stuff. But out in public, I'm a totally different person. I'm very quiet because I'm listening. I'm observing. I feel that as Erickson discovered hypnosis for himself, his polio condition, it made it clear how he could use it for others. Do you think that's true? Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. He just became a master of healing himself and just took those principles out into the world. But he also had just a deep-seated belief that the body can be healed, the mind can be healed. And when you experience it for yourself, how could you not believe it? It's like my father was over here, what day does it say? Thursday, Monday. And when I built my house, I got connected to Foxtel. That was part of the package that I had when I built my house. And I don't watch, I don't even have the TV on. but he comes over and watches the soccer, and I'm where behind me, you guys can see that. Oh God, how can I do this? Yeah, that black painting behind you, that's my office, and to the left of that is my living room. There's a TV there, and he can watch the soccer and all that sort of stuff. And I heard in the background, I was doing some work in the office, something about these people that go to like Alaska and stuff in the woods and go looking for like Bigfoot. They go hunting for Bigfoot, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but I could hear it in the side of my ear. These people have such a deep-seated belief that Bigfoot is real that they want to go out and just find it to prove it, and they tell everybody it's real, and no matter how much logic gets thrown at them, they just can't believe it. It's the same thing with Erickson. So when Erickson was healing himself, if someone came along and says, no, you can't be healed, he's living proof. He believes it so much that no matter what you tell him, he's not going to believe you. And that allowed him to forecast that belief onto other people. Resistant clients, untherapized clients. And he's famous for working with people that were labeled by other physicians and stuff to be untreatable. But he knew so much, he believed it so much, that gave him the ability to treat the untreatable. Does that make sense, Kat? And it all came from his polio condition. I don't know where I was going with that Bigfoot metaphor, but hopefully that makes sense. You've got to believe it. If you don't believe ACH will work, ACH gets very hard. If you don't believe that ACH is enough to therapize your client, it won't be enough. You have to believe it. The only reason I'm a believer in ACH is because I've spent my entire career refining it and seeing the results of it. That's why the traditional stuff doesn't make sense to me. Because even though I have seen it, I know how it works, I know the trainings, I know what it's about, it just doesn't make sense to me. So people can say all the things they want to me about the traditional stuff, it doesn't make sense. It violates the principles that I've been exposed to. Does that make sense, Cap? And everybody else? I was so unsure how to use Mac for someone in bed for a few days. I consider it was a good session though, and am able to use traditional ACK and maybe a Mac question. They're all blank. Yeah, that's the whole purpose. Remember, Mac's whole purpose is to help you become more creative with the ACH questions. When you become more creative, it stops people getting stuck in and it's a teething problem, and I know because I used to have that teething problem too. The teething problem of, what do I say next? Scott, what's a good question? That's why Mac exists. So I can show you what those questions could be. Is putting creativity. And it goes back to that hypnotic interview. Does anyone here believe in Bigfoot while we're talking about that? What does that have to do with this? Who knows? But I brought it up. It's crazy to think what these people believe in. Any other questions? So what's MAC? So MAC is Masters of Advanced Conversational Hypnosis. That's a 3-day course. We'll teach that usually after a couple of ACHs. Then I'll bring out MAC and say who wants to come and do that for 3 days. So it's just a level above ACH, but ACH is first. Is there a document of the principles somewhere? Watch the... did we make... Sure I did. Go to the ACH platform, go watch the strategy webinar. It's the very first video on that platform. I am positive I created a download. Can anyone does that sound familiar to anybody? I'm pretty sure I did. If not, Adrian, what I'll do is I'll post in this group as well. Let me write a note. Kat, I've got to put the... let me just write this on my phone, guys. So Cat pricing YouTube video. And what I'll do, Adrian, is I will upload, if I've still got it, which I'm sure I do, I'll upload my book, The Spotting Unconscious Moments. That goes through all the principles for ACH. But again, by the end of the 2-day ACH training, you'll know all the principles anyway. But I'm positive there's a download. Let me have a look while I'm here, guys. Just bear with me. Kajabi, bear with me, guys. I'll just double check. I don't know if I made one. I was positive I did. Again, I'll upload the book anyway. Okay, preview. Bear with me, guys. I'm sure I did. Yeah, just watch the ACH strategy webinar and overview, guys. That's all the principles there. But I'll try and upload that book. Will the Mac be in April? I'm not sure yet. I don't know when Mac will be. I try and do... Scott, you have a cheat sheet. Are you asking me or are you telling me that I do have one? I'm positive I created one. For cat pricing video and then upload spotting unconscious moments book in group. Yeah, maybe that was the strategy webinar I'm thinking of, but go watch that. That's all the principles. So will the Mac be in April? I think I just answered that. I think some of these questions showing up twice, guys. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know when Mac will be. I'm just trying to have one training at a time. Yeah, one training at a time. That way I can focus on that. But there'll always be plenty of announcements. I'm letting you know. Oh, I do have one. Yeah, it's definitely uploaded in the group. Yeah, I'll try and pin it. But yeah, I was positive. Now it's got me thinking. Yeah, there has to be a cheat sheet in there somewhere. Anyway, I have that if that's what you're asking. So you've got the cheat sheet, Bina? Yeah, I knew I created one. It's one the students actually asked. Pretty sure I uploaded that into the group. But I'll have a look through the group, guys, and I'll pin the book and I'll pin the cheat sheet. Yes, you have the cheat sheet. Yes, thank you. Whew, going to drive me crazy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's awesome. So whoever asked for the principles, I think it was Adrian, I will get those into the group and I'll put them at the top of the group. Awesome. I knew I did that. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Will your puppy join us? Yeah, so he doesn't come. Oh, he will be here. So he's here on the 16th. It is in the files. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Bina. Thank you, and Karen as well. Thank you. That's awesome. Go to the files, Adrian, and it's in there. Okay, the book will be in there too. So Cash gets here in 6 days. It just depends on how much of a pain in the ass he's going to be. If he's going to run around and bark and stuff, I don't want it to interrupt. So I'm trying to actually have my sister come over and babysit him. But if he's cool and calm and collected and just lays down, I'll definitely bring him along. Is the certification still on the cards? Yeah, I've got to get back to you, Demi. I've got to get back to IRCT about the certification. That's on the top of my list. After ACH is done, I'm going to spend all the time that I need to working out this certification thing, and that's all I'm going to be focusing on. So stay tuned for that. I'm just trying to find the best way to get you guys the certification so it covers it completely logistically without you guys having to sit through another massive long training. I want to sort of give you the benefits of the training you've done before. It all just comes down to they want you guys to make videos of your clients and have me watch them and assess them. And I can tell you right now, I don't have time for that and I don't want to do that. And it sort of defeats the purpose because I'm just going to be looking for the same principles, okay? It's crazy, you got to do it that other way. But anyway, it was whatever they say and whatever I can work out with them. So just stay tuned for that, and I will have an answer quickly. And I've been saying that for a long time, but I'm trying my best. Yeah, puppy can be loud. Yeah, so it just depends on what he's like. From what I've met from him, he's got a pretty bad attitude in a fun way, so he's going to be a little terror. So I don't want him to disturb the ACH stuff. Yep, trying to get the certs, but again, if I can't get them, so be it. It's not really bad news. If I can, that's definitely what I'm going to do. I'm going to do everything I can to get them. If I can't, we will eventually. I'll work it out. I'm happy to give everybody a certification, but it won't mean anything if the IRCT don't approve it. Then it's just a piece of paper. I'd rather get it approved. But I'm doing my best. And again, that's the problem with this industry. It's not a problem. It is what it is. That's the rules. There's just a lot of rules when it comes to this stuff. And there's a lot of people that create those rules that aren't willing to budge. they're stuck in the rules from like 30, 40 years ago. They're not willing to see new ways of doing things, which is fine. But we'll see what happens. Any other questions, guys? I've literally got about 10 minutes. Yep, that's all right. Hopefully everyone will get a certification. I will work that out. Any other questions, guys? I'll take another couple. Has this been helpful, guys? Okay, do you ever do CH sessions over the phone? I know it's better to see the client. Yeah, absolutely. So I would say it's more close 10 out of 10 times, or probably 9 out of 10. I never, ever, ever had a camera on when I was working with a client. That's why I don't do camera on when I have strategy calls either. I'm more comfortable with it off, but I actually found I could hear unconscious moments better than I can see them. Maybe that's, and again, that's why I was trained anyway, but maybe that's why I'm a little bit better just in this regard to know what questions to ask better. That's because I'm used to hearing those unconscious moments rather than seeing them. When I'm looking for things, I tend to miss it because I'm too busy listening. So phone for me or camera off is fantastic. Does that make sense, Karen? And when it comes to strategy calls, either my internet drops out or I'm standing in, like, if it's cold, I've got robe and slippers on, and no one wants to see that. So camera off is better. No worries, Dave. Good to see you. All right, guys, that looks like it's it for questions. So, yeah, I'll leave this live in the group. If you got any questions, just post them below. Thank you guys for looking through those files. If you want the book and the cheat sheet, go into the files of this group, the Advanced Conversational Hypnosis. Go into the files. There's plenty of stuff I've obviously uploaded. Go check that out. Just to recap, you do not need to have done anything before the March ACH. When it gets closer to the time, we're still 16 days away, I will start posting a countdown. There'll be plenty of notifications. It'll be via Zoom. It's all recorded. All of the good stuff's coming with it, guys. So just hang in there for another 16 days. And guys, I'll see you soon. But if you have any questions, let me know. And guys, enjoy the rest of your days and your evening. Hopefully this was helpful. And guys, I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.